Thank you, Tom. Hi, everybody. Well, it's the bottom half of the fifth inning, and we've got a tied-up ball game. Up until now, it's been pretty much of a defensive battle. Leadoff hitter hits it to the left side of the infield, picks it up over to first. One down. These women are playing some game.
Shopping and be back for a mess in the pan, 'cause I'm a woman, W-O-M-A-N. Let me tell you again, I'm a woman, W-O-M-A-N.
Well, a lot of kids around school like to laugh at a lot of athletes, and they like to laugh at the girls especially because, girls aren't really supposed to be in athletics. And you get a lot of slack from people, and we don't get big turnouts at, swim meets or anything, but it's starting to build up a lot more, and we're getting a lot of more people there. Working out and competing in gymnastics helps me a lot because it helps me to show my personality through my gymnastics. You have to work hard and take up a lot of time out of your life to be able to compete in it and participate in it, but in the end it usually pays off just by the enjoyment of doing it.
Women's role in athletics has evolved from participation at a simple recreational level to involvement in a growing number of popular sports where women may excel and compete. The American woman athlete of the past found little attention paid to her efforts. Today's female athlete, however, finds herself in the midst of a fast-growing, ever-changing challenge. Where have we been? Where are we going? Are our accomplishments and struggles benefiting today's woman athlete?
When I first started coaching in 1970, it was really on a volunteer basis. There was a minimal amount of money. Maybe when we went on meals, we could have 50 cents for a hamburger. Maybe at that time you could buy 2 hamburgers, I'm not sure. But we really had no budget. I volunteered my time. Sonia Green volunteered her time. When we went with basketball, we volunteered our time. So it was strictly very, very low-keyed, no money available. And looking back from 1970 until now, we certainly have come a long ways, although we have a long ways to go. We didn't have uniforms then. We didn't have practice uniforms. Maybe we had 1 or 2 softballs if we wanted. I'll use softball as an example of a sport. We didn't have shoes. There wasn't insurance, so we really had nothing. And now if we want to talk about what we've got, we do have uniforms. We've got quite a bit of equipment, although we certainly need a lot more equipment. Big items like backstops, so we don't have just this little 2x2 portable backstop that we have. We do have shoes. We now insure the players. We give physicals. We have a team physician. So we've come a long ways, but still when we schedule games, we have to be very, very picky on who we schedule, not necessarily because of the competition. We are getting better. We need to travel further, but we don't have the money to travel a great distance, so we have to stay within a close proximity of Nebraska. Whereas the men, some of their trips, they get in the plane, they fly. When they stay overnight in a motel, I'm sure there are 2 to a room, whereas with the women we've got 4 to the room. I'm not sure what they have for meal allowance, but I would guess that they probably have a greater amount of money for meals than what the women have. So we've come a long ways, but there's still many, many more things that we still have to do.
Well, 5 years ago at Creighton, we actually had absolutely no opportunities for women whatsoever for any kind of athletic competition or really even intramural competition. But gradually, over those 5 years, we've established a program and built it up to include more sports. We're starting to look towards offering scholarships possibly next year. But at Creighton, as at a lot of other schools, it's just taken a long time to get the program built up. And one thing that I would say that we're discovering every year is that the girls come out of programs that are better and better in high school and also grade school. And as a result, their skill level is higher by the time they reach us, and they've just been exposed to competition better and just know how to compete. And we don't have to spend quite so much time on skill development.
I think the thing we have got to do, or that the women's athletic programs have got to do, is to interest more spectators in their sports. I think they have got to create more spectator interest, and I think, of course, this will come as more publicity is given to women's athletics.
With Title IX, that it should come from the federal level or the state level. And those decisions have to be made, and they have to be made quickly. Title IX should be, all of the universities should be in compliance by July of 1978.
Title IX, of course, federal regulations established by HEW, which in essence states that there must be a type of equal funding for women's athletics in comparison to men's athletics if you are the recipient of federal aid or federal dollars. Well, obviously, any public institution is going to be receiving federal dollars, so therefore we are obligated presently to follow HEW or Title IX guidelines if we hope to continue to get federal funding.
One of the areas that there's been a lot of controversy on has been whether women should be on men's teams and whether they should be on the contact sports. Title IX has classified football and basketball as contact sports. Therefore, females are not allowed to try out for the men's football team or the men's basketball team. Universities, colleges, high schools, grade schools, whatever, need to come up with their own teams in those areas. For example, a women's basketball team, or if they want a women's football team. Then I've been asked many times, well, out at UNO, you've got a women's volleyball team. Therefore, men should be able to come try out for your women's volleyball team. Title IX has taken care of this by saying that men cannot try out for women's teams if the women have been neglected in the past.
The biggest problem in women's athletics today is financial. And there are different ways that this can be solved, because I believe that the program should have money enough to operate on a comparative basis to men. I think the way that the financial picture should be cleared is that the government, either state or federal, allot money to the athletic program for women's athletics, because at the present time at least there's not much income coming in from women's athletics.
One of the big costs, of course, would be operational monies. Secondly, would be for scholarships, and we are beginning to offer athletic scholarships here at UNO for women, as is being done throughout the entire country. And this, of course, is one of the things that is going to be considered in the future as far as any program is concerned. You have to be worrying about, we're going to have enough dollars to pay for the programs. Currently, we are in, I think, a good financial situation here at UNO, but we will continue to offer scholarships for women in all of our sports: volleyball in the fall, basketball in the winter, indoor track. In the spring, we'll have softball and outdoor track, and now tennis. So we are offering financial aid for our women athletes in all of these areas.
4 years ago, after the adoption of the Title IX, we started having a state high school swim meet. Prior to that time, there was an invitational that was sponsored by East High School in Lincoln, and we participated in that. In the beginning of that formalized high school girls competition, the events were a little shorter and not quite as rigorous. Today, the rule book we use, which is the National High School Federation rule book, is identical for girls and boys. The only distinction being, of course, the dress that they use during competition. But now things are pretty much on an equal basis.
Certainly in 1970, before Title IX, there was no such thing as an athletic scholarship for women. Again, we've come a long ways, the universities have come a long ways, but we still have a long ways to go. Whereas the men, I believe, offer many full rides, which includes the tuition, room, board, fees. I would say probably about 95% of our scholarships are just strictly tuition. We do give a few full rides with room and board, but not very many. So we still have a long ways to go there in getting the money so that we can give the scholarships that we need. A lot of people say, well, you don't need the money, you don't need that much money because there aren't that many blue chip athletes. There are quite a few blue chip athletes. True, there aren't as many as all the schools that are going out after them, trying to get the best athletes for their school. I think we've done an excellent job of the recruits that we have gotten. I think, though, that the female athlete certainly has to learn what dedication to the game of basketball, softball, volleyball. They really don't know what it is to be a dedicated athlete. Now, I'm not talking about everyone. I believe that you can look at Iowa and you're going to find many dedicated athletes because they've started when they were about in 5th grade, well, some of them even sooner. And they know what it is to work during the summer, not just when they're playing the sport and when they're practicing, but to work year-round. This definitely is going to happen in Nebraska and other states. Now that we've started the programs in high school, doing things in junior high, I believe they're going to start getting the girls interested at a younger age so that they're going to become better skilled. They're going to know what it is to work at a sport. They're going to know what it is to sacrifice and give up things.
I've been swimming high school swimming for 2 years now under Cal Bentz, and I'm a senior this year, and I really feel that high school swimming is fantastic. It's done a lot for me in many different ways. One big one is a scholarship that I received to the University of Oklahoma, and it will cover everything but my meals, and I think this is just fantastic, not only for me but for girls athletics in general, because it kind of gives people the idea that girls athletics are coming along and that you don't just swim in high school and then that's the end of it.
I think that women athletics in college is important, and especially since we know that men's sports are so much more dominating than women's sports in college atmosphere. I think that it takes a lot of gumption for a woman to get out and compete, especially someplace at Creighton where we don't have scholarships, and we're doing it all on our own, and we're dedicated to either volleyball, basketball, or softball teams that have developed here at Creighton just in the last 5 years. I think the girls that participate in sports here deserve a lot of credit, and more they're getting recognition for the time that they're putting in.
I think getting in shape for meets it's pretty hard. It takes a lot of routine work and then extra exercise work just to get in shape for them, and then we work out extra hours, which also tire us out a lot, and it just takes an awful lot of work. When you're going into a meet, you always want to do your best and hopefully hit your routines. And sometimes there's pressures from your parents and your coaches, but I think a lot of it you can relieve yourself just by going into the meet with the idea that you're going to do the best you can.
In high school, I just started doing sports. Freshman year, I really didn't know much, but I learned a lot. And one thing that I learned from the beginning is teamwork. And I think that's one of the neatest feelings, working with a team. And I really met a lot of girls, and they're a lot of my friends. And then through this, they've helped me building myself up because I don't have any brothers to help me. So, I really depend on other girls. And since I've been a freshman till now, the program has really been built up a lot. And there's a lot of sports that girls can do. And I just like doing them. And with other people helping and pushing you, you can really go far. And with this, going into college, I think it's helped me a lot.
My freshman year here at the university was the first year for women's athletic scholarships. So my freshman year coming in, there was no real recruiting because they didn't know that they could have scholarships until that fall. So I went out for the volleyball team and I made the team, and then about the third week of my participation, I found out that I had gotten a scholarship and I had put in an application for it. And the type of deal you had to do there was you applied in several different sports because you didn't, at that time I didn't know what was a stronger sport and what wasn't for me because I had had no real training that was better in one sport than in the other.
Well, right now I've been busily involved in recruiting. It's quite limited as compared to the men's recruiting procedures. We cannot go to their school. We have to merely talk with them here on campus. And it's difficult to do because you do not have the personal contact at all. You can send out as many letters as you want to, of course, and make as many phone calls, but actually meeting with the student athlete, they have to come to your campus. And this is limiting the women very much. It's protecting the student, which is important because I know of one All-American from Wichita North that is just being flooded with phone calls, with letters, with people trying to recruit her, and she's had to set up a personal secretary in their high school just to handle all of this. So it does protect the student, but from a coaching standpoint, it's difficult to make the personal contact.
Recruiting in women's athletics is somewhat different than with the men. We are not able to give our coaches money to recruit. When a coach hears of an outstanding athlete, the only way that he can contact her is either by mail or on the phone. If he goes and views her in competition, he cannot go down on the floor and introduce him or herself and tell her anything about the university. The student has to approach him or her first, and then they can discuss the program at the university. So it is somewhat limiting to the coach.
My background in girls athletics really didn't start till 3 years ago when I got here. For the first 2 years I coached boys athletics in another school. And when I came to Marion, although I knew it was all girls school, I really hadn't planned on coaching. And I eventually got involved in it, and I found out that I really liked coaching girls athletics. I think my biggest problem when I first came here was a stereotype I had on girls athletics on what their ability was compared to boys. I always thought boys would work a lot harder, be more disciplined. Since I've been in girls athletics, I found out that it's the same. My coaching philosophy between girls and boys is exactly the same. I'll work the girls the same as I do the boys. If it's in track, I run them just as far, if not farther sometimes. For some reason they stand the pain a little bit better. In basketball, I run the same drills as I did for boys. So I found out the stereotype's really not true between the girls and the boys. The girls can take just as much, they work just as hard. They're very dedicated and very disciplined. And from what I found out, I really enjoyed coaching girls.
Having coached boys for 8 years, well, 12 years actually, and having to coach girls, I feel a very distinct difference. Girls seem to be, I don't know exactly how to say, a lot more emotional about what they do and how they look and how they present themselves than boys do. And also being emotional, they're a little more high-strung and sometimes are a little bit more prone to get excited and rationalize things before they really know what's going on.
So far as my feeling about working with girls as opposed to working with boys only, I feel it's just as much a part of my job as just working with the boys. It's extremely important, I feel, to the girls. They're extremely enthusiastic, very competitive, and they like to do things that are physical, and they do extremely well, as evidenced by the vast improvement in girls swimming over the short time since we've had it in high school. Philosophically, I guess my stand would be pretty much the same. Girls should be offered an equal opportunity to compete. Obviously, there are some sports which doesn't accommodate girls and boys athletics as much as a sport like swimming. But I feel it's extremely good. If it's important to have as a part of our school program, I feel it's important to have it for both boys and girls.
As a high school girls athlete, I guess I've never really thought that much about being a girl involved in sports because I've always kind of, ever since I was little, I've been interested in athletics. And like when I got to Marion and stuff, I was kind of surprised at the way, how developed girls athletics could be because I was accustomed mostly just hearing about boys and stuff. But out here, like, you know, our facilities are pretty good. They could, you know, we don't have the money to get everything, but, you know, they're not too bad. And, you know, like our coaches, I think, are real good. And, you know, we work really hard, and I think we really do have a good program. And I guess, too, that, like, it's never really bothered me being a girl involved in sports because that's just, I don't know, I've never thought that much about it. A lot of people have said, well, what do you think, you know, about being a girl? Do people call you a jock? And once in a while, jockette I get called. But, I mean, it's not, I don't even really think about that.
The situation unique to Omaha and Nebraska, in my background, I guess when I was in high school, it was absolutely against the law for girls to play basketball. I mean, there was a state law that said you couldn't do that. So there were several of us in high school, it was an all-girls school in Omaha, who really wanted to play, but we had absolutely no opportunities, maybe a few intramural or recreation programs and a few things in the summertime, but no program sponsored by the school. Well, now the high schools have full programs in all sports, team and individual, and the school that I went to now has taken the state championship in several sports, and sometimes I just would love to be back in high school just to be able to compete. Well, then coming to Creighton as a student in 1969, the situation was similar then in the fact that there were basically no opportunities for intercollegiate competition whatsoever until 1973. We sponsored our first softball team, and that was the first competition organized that was available at Creighton, and those of us who were anxious to compete just grabbed onto that opportunity. I think another drawback, though, that has been associated with physical education and athletics for women has been the femininity problem. If you compete in athletics, you're not feminine, you're not a very full woman, and that has prevented a lot of women from participating just because of that image. And I had a lot of second thoughts about being a physical education major just because of that. And as a result, I chose not to be a phys ed major because of the image that it denoted.
I would say the majority of our student athletes are very dedicated young women. They come to the university and they not only practice from 3 to 6:30 at night, they also have a weight training program that they work in the early morning, sometimes coming here at 6:30 in the morning and working till 8 in a weight training program. In some cases, we do have athletes that are not used to the rigorous training schedule. They've come from a smaller town where they have only been able to use the facility at the high school for possibly 2 nights a week. They've only had a very limited schedule that they've been competing in at the high school level. So when they do come to the university, it takes some time before they can adjust to the type of schedule that is needed at the intercollegiate level in order to train them to work into the team. But I would say on the majority, all of our women are very dedicated. They handle the training schedule very well, are enthusiastic with it, and in fact, they want to train. They want to be the best, and they're willing to do what it takes to be the best.
Society's image of the female athlete has definitely changed within the last few years. I know that when I was playing ball and when I started coaching, you know, the female athlete just kind of stood in the background because that was really a no-no for a female or woman, girl to be playing sports. Now it's getting to be the thing. Instead of the women being the cheerleader, now I think that being an athlete has just as much of the image of the cheerleader, that this is important and it's popular, and the female athletes in the high schools and colleges are becoming important. They're becoming popular, just as the male athlete is becoming, or has been, popular for a long time. And this has to do a lot with society. Society has definitely changed, and they're deciding that the female doesn't have to be a jock to be an athlete, that the female isn't the one with the low IQ, that the female isn't going to become very masculine and forget about how to walk down the street correctly, etc. That actually being an athlete helps them much more, because they gain much more grace, they gain confidence, they're healthier, they're happier, they know how to compete, they know how to win, they know how to lose. That's what you've got to do in society, and you can't beat that. You learn an awful lot in athletics.
I think that being in sports, you really can grow as a person, and you just kind of take life the way it is. If you lose, you know, that's all right. It's nice to win, but you just realize that you got to come back, you know, either way the ball bounces or whatever. And I'm really glad that I've had a chance to participate. And, you know, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do exactly the same. And I think, you know, if you're a girl and you're interested in sports, you should go all out. And just because you're a girl, that shouldn't stop you. Or, you know, it doesn't make any difference if you're a boy or a girl.
I think that there is a possibility in some sports, perhaps such as tennis and swimming and golf, where men and women could be competing on the same teams. However, I think today it's the desire for women and their part to have separate teams and not to compete with the men. I think there's a chance that they might compete in meets where the men and women might be competing in the same meet, but against men, the men against men and the women against women. I think this could be true in golf, tennis, and swimming, some of these other sports like that. But I think the future of women's athletics is good as far as the interest. I think you have tremendous interest and enthusiasm on the part of the women. They are just as enthusiastic as they're at their contests as men are. I think, again, it just depends so largely on financial situations.
Well, I can wash out 44 pairs of socks to have them on the line. You know, I just wash 2 dozen shirts, but you can count from 1 to 9. Yeah, I can skip up a great big dip up a lot from a dripping stand. Throw it in a skillet, do my shopping and be back for less in the pan, 'cause I'm a the compound on my nose at the same time. You know, I can get all dressed up, go out and swing till 5 a.m. and then jump in bed at 5, rock till 6, and start all over.